Hello, my name is Sam Feltham and welcome to Expert Interviews here on Smash the Fat. With me all the way from LA in California in the United States of America is the America's angriest trainer, Vinnie Tortorich. How you doing, Vinnie?
I'm doing great, Sam. How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. And just to give the listeners a bit of background, firstly, why exactly are you America's angriest trainer?
Well, I get that question a lot. Everyone wants to know why I'm so angry. And then they see me and they say, wait, you're smiling and you're not angry. I thought you were supposed to be angry. Grr, you're this angry guy. And it came out of, me just being upset that everyone's good intentions have been stolen. You guys over in the UK have the same problem we have here in the States. I know that because my better half is from the UK. I stole one of your girls. We have a fat epidemic, and that is bringing on, all sorts of, metabolic syndrome and all that entails. And no one wants to be fat. No one wants to be out of shape. No one wants to have sleep apnea or heart disease or type 2 diabetes, which was unheard of even 15 years ago. Unless you were an alcoholic, you didn't have type 2 diabetes. But now we have all of this stuff. And I'm angry because everyone wants to do the right thing, yet against their better intentions, they can't do it. Their best intentions have been stolen. No one wakes up in the morning and go, hooray, I'm fat. It just never happens. So I'm not angry at you. I'm angry for you and with you, and the ideas together we can make this all better.
Absolutely, absolutely. And this is all being created from your incredibly popular podcast, which is available at vinnietortorich.com, which I highly recommend everybody going to visit and listen to the podcast as well, because you've done about 300 episodes. Is that right?
Yeah, we're coming up. I think we're in the mid 290s. I think we've actually recorded up to 300 now, so those will be coming out. So I think by mid-September we will hit the 300 mark, which is odd to me because when Anna Vocino and I, she's my co-host, when we started the podcast 2 years ago, a little over 2 years ago, I asked Anna to do 5 of them. 5. And we sat down one day and did 5 podcasts and put all 5 of them up. And the only reason, I didn't even know what a podcast was because I'm really computer illiterate still. I'm not pretending. I really don't know. You saw what it took for me just to get on this Google Hangout today. It was not easy.
We got there in the end.
It's crazy, right? I mean, I kind of know how to use Skype, and I talk to people on Skype from all over the world, but you had to actually help me get onto Google Hangout. And the podcast was the same thing. I didn't really know what it was, but I had done radio back in the 80s in New Orleans, Louisiana, and because of that, I kind of knew how to do radio, and we did the 5, and immediately people started picking up on it on iTunes, and started asking us to put them on Stitcher, and I didn't even know what Stitcher was. But we started doing that, and the show got bigger and bigger. Early on, we were in the new and noteworthy section, and we stayed there forever. Within the first few months, we were on, if you went to iTunes, you would see 50 Cent, and then it would pop up something Charlie Sheen, and then it was a picture of me. And we were like, how did this happen? In what world am I up there with 50 Cent where, iTunes is saying, go listen to this guy? But I was happy because the only reason we did a podcast was because I had a book to sell, and the book was going to be coming out in a few months. And, we were trying to get me popular on the internet.
Absolutely. And when did the podcast start exactly, was it?
It was May, this past May made 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, we came up 2 years in May. So we're just over 2 years now. And for a while, we kept doing 3 a week, even though Anna agreed to 1. I would literally walk into the studio with no notes, and we would sit there, and we would knock out 1, and then I would say, come on, Anna, let's do 1 more. And she would go, all right, come on, Anna, let's do 1 more. And she thought she was like piling them up, but I was releasing them 3 a week, and we just kept doing them. And everyone thought we would run out of steam by doing that, but in fact, we started gaining steam because as the audience started to grow, people had real questions. So the whole podcast became questions, and then all the experts kind of figured out that we had some big numbers. So whenever they had a book to promote, they would come on. So even before my book came out, you know, Dr. Noakes, Timothy Noakes, who I think you know very well, and you know, the guy from the Paleo Diet, and Jimmy Moore, who had a big podcast, was asking to come on. Everyone was asking to come on, and we were like, wow, this is kind of cool. So now we had experts saying that we were doing the right thing, which kind of made it a bigger thing. And you know, then celebrities, Howie Mandel, who I don't know if you guys know in your country, big celebrity here, he came on. Minnie Driver, who's from London, an actress, she's been on the show. So the show started picking up. You know, David Perlmutter's been on recently. Peter Attia has been on. Dr. Westman from the Atkins Diet. They all want to come on and be part of the show, which we're very happy about. So that's how the show continues now. It's kind of driven by celebrity.
Excellent. And as you said, it kind of stemmed from your book, Fitness Confidential, which is kind of adventures from the weight loss game of your career of 30 years. And before we kind of get into the nitty-gritty of those confessions of a PT in LA, there was a quite incredible story that I kind of empathized with because I don't know if you know, but I had cancer when I was 13 myself. So I've kind of been through chemotherapy and things like that as well. It's a story that's probably just, it's very, very inspiring, your own personal health story, which kind of goes in, that's in the book towards the end. So tell us about kind of that story and where you were in your life there and kind of how it changed things.
Sam, I had no idea you had cancer when you were 13.
Yeah, dude. I didn't mention it before because I wanted to maybe.
And you didn't mention cancer.
Yeah, dude. I was holding that back. I was going to what you call it. I was going to mention it on here, and then we can do a follow-up. We can do a follow-up show on that.
Well, let me interview you for a second on your show. Tell me about your cancer. I mean, what did you have?
So I don't know if you can see here, but can you see? There's a slight scar on my neck there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it looks like a love bite. There's so many times that people ask me, "Is that a hickey or something?" You know, but no, it's an operational scar from cancer. But okay. And yeah, it was about the size of a small egg. It turned out to be Hodgkin's disease, which is a lymphoma cancer. And yeah, 4.5 months of chemotherapy, and then I was kind of all good. But yeah, that was not great. Like kind of when you were 13 and things, not ideal. But yeah, that was kind of it really.
And you've been clean now for how many years?
Yeah, so 17 years. I'd be clear now. So yeah, thankfully nothing else has kind of arisen. Always kind of get an annual check and things like that. But yeah, no, all good in the hood, and long may it continue, especially kind of with my dialed-in diet now.
Well, you know what's amazing is my my cancer, my hematologist who cured me, I said, right when I was cured and everything was clear and they gave me the okie dokie, I said to her, I said, listen, everyone, because I live in California and everyone's on some kind of wacky diet here, live on juice or live on this, live on that. And I said to my doctor, I said, is there anything I should be doing? Anything special that I should be doing? I hear about macro and micro diets and juice fast and all this. And she said, no. She said, take a lot of vitamins, including vitamin B, very important for you. And she said, on top of that, stay away from sugar, because she goes, we don't know why, but we do realize now that sugar can cause cancer to grow. so you might want to stay away from sugar. And that was kind of when I started taking my own advice of what I've been doing with people for about 25 years at that point, in 2007. Wow, I've been telling everyone to stay away from sugar, yet every time I hop on my bicycle to go for a 12-hour ride, the one ingredient that's with me the entire time is a ton of sugar. Now, I'm not going to get metabolic syndrome because I'm riding a bike for 12 hours. This sugar is going to burn, but my system is still taking in that sugar. I'm still getting the inflammation from it. And that's when I started, because I had known about Stephen Finney and all these guys forever. I read all the literature. He and Jeff Volek have all this great literature, and that's what got me thinking, I wonder if I can ride a bike for long periods eating a low-carb diet, because I also tell my clients to stay away from grains. And that's kind of how the whole thing got started. I didn't mean to go into that from your cancer thing, but that's kind of how I got on the whole bandwagon of maybe I should be doing this not just with my clients, but also with athletes and myself and everyone else.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's kind of something that people kind of skim over in terms of kind of saying, yeah, it's fine as long as you're kind of burning it off and things like that. But what you just kind of said there is in terms of if you're still taking on like loads of junk food and doing lots of exercise, you're still going to be getting lots of information from that and still going to be having kind of still health problems kind of from that, despite the fact that you're doing loads of exercise, for instance. And kind of your nutritional philosophy, you've got it there on your baseball cap, NSNG, no sugar, no grains, which is precisely what we kind of advise right there as well, Vinny. Yeah, it's just fantastic that so many people from around the world are kind of coming to similar conclusions from reading the scientific literature, as you said there. As we were saying before, it kind of stemmed. All of this kind of stems from your own personal health story, which was leukemia, that's quite epic. So let's get into that.
Okay, what would you like to know about my leukemia?
Yeah, so it's kind of the diagnosis of it all was rather fascinating. So you're like a ultra cyclist.
I wasn't like an ultra cyclist. I wasn't. Yeah, and I've been doing it. It was kind of like. There's a couple of things, everybody has their hobby. Some guy likes to get in his garage and carve out canoes, or some guys like to have model airplanes. My two things, it looks like your screen froze up for a second. Are we still on?
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine.
Okay. My two things in life are shooting guns, which I know in your country is hard to do because you can't get guns, but I like shooting, precision shooting, and I like doing ultra events. And I would do them in mountain bike, 24-hour mountain bike events. I would do road events on the bicycle. I know a lot of people like to run ultras and so on and so forth. But that was always kind of my secret kind of guilty pleasure, was on a Saturday, just take the whole day off and get on my bike from maybe 3 in the morning until 10 at night and just train like that just to see how far I could take the body. In order to do that, you would take in, just copious amounts of sugar because it's easy to do. You could take these goo packets, Hammer Nutrition, sugary drinks and whatnot just to get you through those events. And, I was training for one of those events when I learned that I had leukemia. And it was shocking to me because, the doctors, because it took 3 doctors to figure out exactly what was wrong with me, they kept looking at the fact that I would spend about 500 miles a week on a bicycle, and they were saying, well, you're an older man now, and you need to stop that foolishness, and, the reason you have, I was down to 3% body fat, but not in a healthy way. I was very frail and very thin, and my skin was turning gray, and my eyes were sunken. And I kept thinking, oh, it's because I'm getting older and I'm still doing this crazy sport. But as it turns out, all the blood tests came back and said something is really, really wrong. And I couldn't buy into it because, hell, on the day when they called me to say, you have leukemia, I was on the bicycle, you saw the story in the book. My friend, who's an oncologist, called me crying and said, "Get off your bicycle and take a cab home." She said, "Don't even ride your bike home. Take a cab." And I was so far out in the woods that I couldn't get a cab where I was. I was way out in the countryside. So I rode home to learn 3 hours later. And by the way, when a doctor calls you crying and she's your friend and she's an oncologist and she watches people die every day, I knew that something was definitely wrong. So I literally took my time riding back to find out when I got to her house that I was still in my sweaty bicycle clothes and everything. My bicycle was in the car. And my life changed right there. She said, "You need to go on chemo immediately. You're in the final stages. You're close to death." And none of the doctors could figure out how I was still riding a bike like that. Because when you look at the numbers in my blood numbers, I should have been, in the hospital in a bed. But there I was sweating away on the bike.
Yeah, it was. It's absolutely crazy, and you describe it so well in the audiobook. Because I listen to I prefer to listen to audiobooks because I do a lot of cycling, commuting, and things like that. And you can get Fitness Confidential on audiobook via Audible by going to smashthefat.com/Audible. If it's your first time buying from Audible, you can get it on a 30-day free trial. So you can even get Fitness Confidential for free for your first free audiobook from Audible. So highly recommend it as being the first one because it's absolutely incredible. And then kind of after that diagnosis, what was your prognosis?
Well, it was funny because it was a highly curable form of leukemia. The problem is I had so much of it in my system. 80% of my bone marrow was gone and was replaced by cancer cells. So the big worry was that the chemo could kill me. So there was this constant influx of this drug called, it wasn't EPO, it wasn't the blood doping drug, it was the sister drug to that called Neupogen, which went in to artificially create white blood cells to keep me alive while they were trying to kill the cancer with the chemo. So literally overnight, my body became kind of a chemistry set of drugs just interacting with each other, trying to kill cancer and keep me alive at the same time. And which should have been an easy cancer to cure became quite difficult and somewhat painful because Neupogen makes all of your bones feel like they're breaking from the inside. So the chemo didn't hurt me as much as taking the white blood cell and cancer drug, which, by the way, is crazy because I was told that every time they gave me a shot, which was every day, that drug alone, it was a little shot, just like 5 or 10 cc's or something of a drug, and I think it was like $1,500 or $2,000 a shot, just for that, and you're like sitting there going, and that's keeping me alive, huh? And I'm worth $1,500 a day. Like all this crazy stuff goes through your mind, as you may know when you're going through chemo. It's like, will I live? Will I die? Should I be telling my parents I love them and they were great? You start wondering what you're doing in life. What it all means.
Straight up, and yeah, I kind of had those thoughts even when I was 13. Let alone, how old were you at the time? 45, it'd be.
Yeah, I'm 51 now, so it was in 07. So if you do the math, 44, 45, somewhere around there. Yeah,
absolutely. And then kind of you've been clear from that now. But one of the major things that kind of saw you bounce back even better was that you finished this incredible 48-hour race, which is it the Furnace Valley 501 or something? What was it again?
It's called the Furnace Creek 508. You were close. Furnace Valley. The race starts in Santa Clarita, which is about 15 miles from where I live. Excuse me. And it goes through the Mojave Desert, which is hot, and then it goes through Death Valley, California, which is probably the hottest place on the planet, but we actually travel through most of Death Valley at night. So the temperatures are down to 95 degrees or so Fahrenheit. But after you've been riding a bike all day, 95 degrees at night is still damn hot. And then you come out the other side of the valley. You have 48 hours to complete it. I finished in 34 hours and some change that particular year. I was trying to win the race, and I was in third place for most of the race. But like everything, I was still taking sugar in that year. It was that first year where I was still taking in a ton of sugar. And like in most of my races, right around the 15 to 17 hour mark, I start to feel like a kid that stayed at a birthday party way too long and ate too much cake and ice cream. Your stomach just goes off. And, during that race, I had the epiphany to say, once I get through this race, no matter how I get through it, I'm going to go and start studying what, I should be doing. I'm going to do what I have my clients do. I'm going to do what I do when I'm not on the bike. I'm just going to stay away from sugar and see if I can do it. And I've been successful doing it ever since.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Are you going to be doing the Furnace Creek 508 again at all?
I want to. I'm not doing it this year. As a matter of fact, it's on a different course this year. The guy who owns the race, Chris Kosman, is a close friend, and he had to move the race because they're doing some kind of study in Death Valley on racing through Death Valley. So in order to do the study, somehow they decided not to allow the race to go on, which makes no sense. But Chris was having the race somewhere else this year. I'm hoping to do it again in the near future. I'm not quite sure when, because this whole book thing is taken off, the podcast is taken off, and I still see my regular clients on a regular basis. So everything is kind of taken off for me, and I don't have time to train as much. As you can see, can you see this? There's one of my bikes behind me.
Yeah, you got your turbo bike there and your road
I have
bike.
a spinner. So literally, I will do work sitting here in my office. My secretary can you say secretary? My assistant will be sitting at the desk, and I will sit on that spinner behind her and dictate and tell her what to do. It's the only time I get to train now. And I'm hoping to get things to level out a bit to where Wendy can be here doing work and I can sneak away to do 2 or 3 hours outdoors versus, 2 hours behind her sweating away, which cannot be comfortable for her. You got this sweaty old Italian guy, barking out commands to you. It's just not right. But it literally is my setup. This is my office, and that's where everything goes on. And it's I refuse to not train, so that's what I'm doing right now.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So it's still totally possible to be a hard-working entrepreneur as well as doing endurance events and things like that. As long as you set up the environment, I suppose, is kind of the key there.
It really is, Sam. People. I hate when people say I don't have time to work out, because I consistently put in 12-hour days. And by the way, this is not, hey, I'm super cool, so you should be super cool too. That's not what I'm saying. But I put in 12-hour days and sometimes 15-hour days. My better half, Serena Scott Thomas, does the same thing. She puts in long hours. Yeah, she finds time to run and do marathons. I do this, or I will grab that bike behind and just go out for an hour or two. Or, I like to cross-country ski, and I have those skate roller skis, and they're set up right by the door. And if I know that I have an hour, I'll plunk them on, I'll go out the door, I have the poles there and everything, and I'll just go down the street and hammer an hour and then come back and get right back to work, just towel off and go back to work. Anyone can stay in shape if they really, really want to.
Absolutely, absolutely. And one of kind of the things that helps people in today's world is the right advice with the right coach. And you've been a personal trainer for the past 30 years in LA, and kind of from that lengthy career that's still going strong, you've had some incredible experiences and kind of sort of had a real insight into the world of kind of the celebrity culture that is in LA, training them and things like that. So what's kind of been your most outlandish story, would you say, from that career?
Yeah, there's been so many, and we could have written an entire book on that. We kind of alluded to it in the first chapter when we talked about the jug rub, which was not the most outlandish thing, because we chopped maybe 4,000 words out of that section of just story after story of just the craziest things, and a lot of them had to do, back in the 80s. You got to remember, I was doing this in the 80s, and that was at the beginning of the cocaine era. So, if I just go back to the cocaine era, like, people would show up high, to work out because they thought that cocaine would help them lose weight. And I had a whole thing of, if I showed up and you were coked up, I wouldn't train you. I would leave. Because, if you have someone coked up, you can stop their heart if you start making them exercise too hard.
Yeah.
There was a time period also in the 80s when there was a drug called Halcyon. And, a lot of these people were taking Halcyon for whatever reason. And it was a sleeping pill. And it would cause them to, the next day after they took the pill, it would make them go into some sort of amnesia state, but they would go crazy and then go into the amnesia and couldn't remember what they had done the day before. And the stories I could tell on just that would, that could be, I could write a book called Halcyon and just do that. Because some of these women would get amorous and do different things and get naked, and there was always some version of get naked for your trainer thing. And I was part of that whole 80s thing where everything was kind of drugs and rock and roll and sleeping with your trainer or your hairdresser and the whole thing. I stayed away from that for the most part, but you would be shocked at what went on back then. The 90s was kind of the same, drugs in and out. But, I always had to watch the people on the drugs and what was going on with that. But, again, that could be a whole book. And I tried to give a little piece of that without making that the book. I didn't want to write Shampoo, the book for trainers. It's like, who wants to read that? But we did put a little element of that. And I think that's why the book is done so well, because people can see exactly. And we didn't give any celebrity names out. We mentioned a few scenarios and whatnot, but it kind of goes, like that.
Yeah, absolutely, because it's kind of a good mixture of kind of, a little bit of celebrity juice, as we call it over here, as well as kind of obviously your own personal health story and some constructive health and fitness advice as well, which is primarily no sugars and no grains. So why exactly should we not be eating sugar and be avoiding grains as well?
Well, I'll tell you that the one thing people get out of this, and by the way, we didn't realize I had to go and copyright in, NSNG after the book came out. We didn't realize it was going to become a thing. I just simply said, stay away from sugars and stay away from grains. I didn't say no, I just said stay away. Because back in the day, before we all got fat, in 1961, a guy came along, Ansel Keys, and said, you should have all the grains you can get in your body. Eat grains, eat grains, eat grains. We made it the basis of our, for our country, and you guys did the same thing. The more, fiber and grains you could get, the better. That happened 1 year before I was born. I was born in 1962, and my entire life, I've watched people go from looking great and being healthy to being morbidly obese in 51 years. And I knew early on, my secret as a trainer was not so much the number of sit-ups I had someone do or the number of squat thrusts or lunges. I knew that I would succeed in Hollywood. All Hollywood cares about is make her thin. Get her thin, put her on a red carpet. If she had a baby, get her thin. My secret was I would go in and pull out all the sugar in their diet, even the artificial sweeteners, and then I would pull all the grains out. And people didn't just live like that to get thin. They would go, wait a minute, I can continue to live like that. And that's what I offered Hollywood. Does that mean that you can't have vegetables? No. most of what I tell people to eat are vegetables. Eat a ton of vegetables, and eat red meat, and eat fish, and eat poultry, or any other kind of bird you would like to eat. You know, that has always been my thing. Stay away from sugars as much as you can. Stay away from grain as much as you can, and you will be fine. Because guess what? In the 1970s, before we went grain crazy, people were still thin. You know, we were still thin. 20 years after, you know, Ansel Keys came out with his thing, yeah, we were gaining some weight, but people were still keeping it together. Back when a Coke was only 12 ounces. Now Cokes are 64 ounces or even bigger. You know, all of that came out of people wanting more and more sugar because we became addicted to it, and more grains. I remember when a pizza used to be that big. That was a pizza. Now everything is family style and extra thick crust and more stuff in the crust. And now pizzas are like this, you know, 25-inch pizzas. Where did that come from?
I don't know. And recently, I don't know if you have this, Vinny, but Domino's recently, they've done a cheeseburger crust. So there's literally, right, guess, right, there's cheeseburger on the edge. How it's fucked up is that? It's crazy, right?
That's absolutely nuts. By the way, you're cutting out again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, that's all good.
Okay, because your picture froze again. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy what we're doing with food. It wasn't long ago, and we talked about this on the Angriest Trainer podcast, where I don't know if it was 7-Eleven or one of our convenience stores, they made the cup was now so big to put soda in that it gave you a thing to hang around your neck. So you can hang the soda like, you know, you're feeding a cow, you know, hooking a feed basket to a horse or a cow. You had a soda so big you had a feed hook on you with an extra long straw, just feeding the sugar into your mouth constantly. You know, when I was a kid, Sam, I drank around 70 ounces of Coke per year. And the reason I know that is because when I was a kid, the only time I had a Coke was when my dad took me to Frank DeNino's barbershop. And he had a Coke machine, and the Cokes used to be 7 ounces here in the States. So in the late 1960s, early 1970s, my dad, I figured I got 10 haircuts a year. And my dad would give, you know, let my brother and I have a Coke every time we went to Frank DeNino's to get a haircut. So I drank 70 ounces per year of Coca-Cola. It was the only time I had a Coke. Now you can drink 70 ounces in a serving. Think about that. That's crazy making.
Insane.
That's where we are in this world. And if we could just get people, am I telling you not to ever have wedding cake or birthday cake? Or am I telling you never to have a glass of wine or enjoying the best lasagna you've ever had? That's not what we're talking about here. Those are foods you have on occasion. But if you do the right thing most of the time, you won't have metabolic syndrome. You won't have inflammation. You won't be sick. You won't have to go see your doctor about colitis or Crohn's disease, or, you know, the fact that you have any other number of the sleep apnea and wearing. I know people who wear masks just to sleep now.
Yeah.
None of that existed. Heart disease was unknown of in 1961. It was not the major killer in the United States or anywhere in the world. You know, all we have to do is look at the facts. And that's all we try to do in my book, Fitness Confidential, is give people a fun way to look at it. And also with the Angriest Trainer podcast, we try to give people a fun way to look at it. That's all we're doing.
Yeah, and it's really fantastic, Vinny. Yourself and Anna are very kind of down to earth and kind of normal people language as well.
Yeah.
Which is kind of, you know, ideal to get this message across to the masses, basically. I just highly recommend everybody checking it out. Firstly, going across to VinnieTortorich.com. That's Vinnie, TORTORICH.com, and checking out the podcast. And then if you fancy it, highly recommend getting Fitness Confidential, Vinny's book, on audiobook via smashthefat.com/audible, because sometimes on that you get a little bit extra because you go off on tangents on that, and that obviously isn't in the book. So well done for doing that, Vinny. Absolutely fantastic. And then you can get the book Fitness Confidential via amazon.co.uk. If you go to smashthefat.com/FCUK. Got to be careful spelling that. So yeah, and then if you want to get it in the US via Amazon, go to smashthefat.com/FCUS, and you can grab the copies both from Amazon UK and Amazon US right there. And then there's only one more thing to do, Vinny, and that's to hear a smash it out from Vinnie Tortorich, America's Angriest trainer. So on 3, I'd like you to shout "smash it out" to the camera. So 1, 2, 3.
Smash out!
Yeah, awesome, dude. We're going to do that again, though, because I want to hear "smash it out."
Oh, smash it out. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good. That's all good, dude. It's all good. We'll include. We're going to do a massive compilation on our 100th episode for this, so this is going to be great. So 1, 2, 3.
Smash it out!
Yeah, awesome, Vinny. Love it, mate. Love it. That's perfect. Cool, Vinny. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to share with our listeners at all?
No, just that, we love what you're doing, Sam. I love what you do over there. The fact that you do these N=1 experiments and you're getting them out there. We've been a fan of yours for a long time. You've been on my show. We would love to have you back again. I think Anna fell in love with you. She was kind of swooning a bit. Keep doing what you're doing, brother. And by the way, if you're looking for a good interview over in the UK, you guys have an actor over there. He's my brother-in-law, Robert Bertie Portal. He's a television actor and a film actor there. He was in The King's Speech and a few other movies.
Right.
He rowed a boat across the Atlantic last year. And then he just did the Marathon des Sables this year, and he's also getting ready to swim the Channel. And he's an actor. He's not a guy that does this. He's like a regular guy who just says, "I'm going to do things," and then do them. I think he would be a fabulous interview for your UK listeners.
Amazing, Vinny. Yeah, that'd be great if you could hook that up. Put us in an email together, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I don't mean to put you on the spot on your own show, but I think your audience will love this guy. As a matter of fact, when I was in Wales 2 weeks ago, he was there. So I brought my equipment and I recorded him, and it's been one of my best podcasts recently. People love it.
Fantastic. Yeah, you'll have to hook us up in an email together, and we can make that happen for sure. That'd be absolutely excellent.
I'll make it happen today.
Oh, I appreciate that, Vinny. That's awesome, dude. That's awesome. And that's what this is all about. It's about trying to bring people together that have kind of, similar concepts and similar messages, and just get it out to the masses. Because, it's so important to have this support and motivation from others that's going to keep this movement going.
I think next year when I come back to, you're in London, right?
Yeah.
I think you and I should get together and do some kind of video thing, kind of a man on the street or something like that. We could probably go out and have a good time with that.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. We'll hook something up. Yeah, if you're ever in London, just hit me up, and then we'll have an absolute blast. I'll take you out to the best steakhouse in London, and we'll also go out on the street and start asking people about diet, health, and exercise.
Done deal, man. It'll be a great time.
There we go. That's awesome, Vinny. That's awesome, dude. Sweet, mate. Well, have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for your time. Everybody, check out vinnietortorich.com, and hopefully we'll get you back on the show when your next book is coming out, or any other projects are coming up, Vinny.
I actually have a product that's coming out in less than a month. So if you want to do something sometime in the early fall, let's do it again. I'd like to come on and promote if I could.
Absolutely. Are we allowed to find out what it is, or is it completely under wraps?
We're keeping it quiet for it's not a big deal, but I think it's a big deal. We're keeping it under wraps for another week or so, or 2 weeks, and you'll be the first to know, because we love you guys over there, and I'll get it to you.
Oh, excellent, Vinny. That's perfect. So yeah, we'll get you back on in the autumn to talk about the top secret Vinnie Tortorich project. And yeah, I'll look forward to speaking to you then, brother.
Thanks, Sam. Have a good day.
Awesome. You too, Vinny. Take care, man.
Bye-bye.